Hello everyone, welcome back to Yoga and Coffee with Carrie. My name is Carrie and we have been doing a series on the foot where we've been going over a variety of exercises that you can incorporate into your yoga practice in order to make your foot generally healthy and strong and flexible. I wanted to take this video to talk about barefoot walking and barefoot movement in general. It's a pretty debated topic. I've spent quite a bit of time reading through the literature, and to be completely honest, it's from a scientific perspective just really not entirely certain what is happening with barefoot walking, if it's gonna help reduce injuries or increase them. It's still pretty debated by researchers. I personally tend to be more in favor of a natural progress, a natural way of movement. We've, as human beings, have been wearing shoes for 40,000 years, and before that we were pretty much walking barefoot. So I tend to think we're probably biomechanically designed to walk barefoot. But again, as research comes in, I may be changing my mind in the future. There are a couple of things I do want to talk about in regards to barefoot walking though. Depending on how you're currently moving, what shoes you're wearing, how often you're wearing shoes, just deciding to experiment with barefoot walking and just taking off your high heels that you've been wearing every day, all day, to walking barefoot is a recipe for injury. So if you are interested in barefoot walking, I recommend taking a really cautious, slow approach to increasing the amount of time that you are walking barefoot. So before we get into those steps that I recommend, let's talk a little bit more about the differences that we are seeing with people who walk barefoot compared to people wearing shoes. Most of the research on barefoot walking is taking people who have been wearing shoes and then start walking barefoot. But there have also been studies looking at populations of people who have walked barefoot their entire life compared to those who haven't. With this research, it's a little bit complex because a lot of the times they're different populations and it's not randomly assigned, and so there could be genetic differences, there could be other cultural differences, so it can be a little bit hard to work through this research and determine what's really causing the differences. But with that said, what they are finding is that people who've walked barefoot their entire life generally have a wider foot. They generally have less valgus hallucis, which people believe is caused by just your shoe compressing in your foot. They actually usually have a lower arch, which is interesting. They also found that within the population that wears shoes, there's a pretty varied difference in the arch size of different people. So some people had a really high arch, some people had a really low arch, and it seemed that the shoes that they were wearing, the type of shoe that they were wearing, was affecting whether this arch developed or not. So if you're someone with a high arch and you're interested in maybe trying to get it a little bit lower, working towards a barefoot protocol might be good for you. They also find that people who have walked barefoot their entire lives tend to land less on the heel of their foot and more on the ball, the front of the foot. And there's a lot of research showing that this maybe puts less pressure through the body, but that's also really complex and confusing. But we do know that people who walk barefoot tend to land more in the front of their foot compared to the back. If you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna give this a try, I wanna try barefoot walking, what do I do? Well, the first thing is to take a look at the shoes that you're wearing right now. Are you wearing really high arch shoes? Are you wearing high heels? What types of shoes are you wearing? If you're wearing high heels, I would actually recommend working your way down on your heels that you're wearing. So if you're someone wearing 4-inch heel, Before I ever attempted going barefoot, I would start wearing a 3-inch heel and then a 2-inch heel, then a 1-inch heel, and then just a shoe. If you're wearing maybe tennis shoes with a lot of support, well, maybe you just want to reduce the amount of support in your shoe before you start going barefoot. If you're wearing just kind of a regular shoe, it's pretty low, or a variety of shoes, then you can go right ahead and start walking barefoot. So if you're like me, maybe you spend some of your time barefoot anyways. If you're doing yoga, then maybe you're spending an hour a few times a week, depending on how often you do yoga, being barefoot, and that's great. If you maybe walk around your house for 4 hours barefoot and then wear shoes when you go out, then hey, you've already got a pretty good program going on. If you're someone who wears shoes most or all of the time, then you're going to want to slowly introduce barefoot walking or barefoot living. So I would start with maybe 1 or 2 minutes a day, twice a day, and then build up slowly from that. If you're walking barefoot already, but you're walking on a really hard surface, I would recommend moving into a softer surface. So maybe start some time walking just in your lawn if you have a lawn, and building up slowly that way. So you want to walk maybe 1 minute to start out with, and then build up to a longer walk barefoot on a grassy surface, something where you're not gonna injure yourself, where there's no sharp objects or anything, but where you can practice walking on uneven surfaces with your bare foot. As you can see, it's a pretty varied process. If you're wearing high heels, you're just trying to reduce the heel for now. If you walk around your house barefoot all the time, then maybe you want to think about adding in uneven surfaces. You can even add maybe a mat in front of your kitchen sinks, but you're not standing on an even surface while you're doing the dishes. You can incorporate maybe more rugs or softer surfaces. And what this is going to do is it's going to help develop what we've talked about before, the anti-gravity muscles in your foot. And really the entire body, actually. If you are walking barefoot on a hard surface, that is going to inhibit anti-gravity muscles, not just in the foot, but throughout your body. If you're walking on a surface that has a little bit of give, then you're actually developing those anti-gravity muscles. And in theory, that's going to help reduce risk for pain for not just your foot, for your low back, for your neck, for your shoulder, for your entire body, because your entire body will be developing more anti-gravity muscle strength and larger diameter anti-gravity muscles. And that is what correlates with the decreased risk of injury, decreased risk of pain, much better than posture does. This is a basic intro guide to walking barefoot. I didn't cover running barefoot or with minimalist shoes because that's a whole other topic. This is just something to get you thinking, to get you moving more towards a movement pattern that will activate anti-gravity muscles and protect your body from injury. I have one more video for you. We've been talking a lot about the foot, but you can't ever isolate just the foot. So I do want to move up at least to the lower part of the leg and show you some ways to stretch and strengthen that to help support the foot that you've been working so hard on. I'll see you then.
If you're interested in a step-by-step guide to barefoot walking, click the link below.